Hello guys, Tops here. Today I have something special for you. I made the weapons tier list, but that weapons tier list did not include ranged weapons and throwable stuff, so I will do this today. And I have 4 categories. First thing, the things I want to use. The second thing is the things I use early and mid-game, or mid-game. And the third is things I only use if I find them for free. And if I don't find them for free, I don't use them. And the last thing are things that I generally don't use or craft, right? They are not really worth using or crafting because there is just better stuff. Okay, so let's start with the acid flask. And I would say the acid flask is one of these things that I generally don't craft or use. And can go down to the acid flask right here. The acid flask reduces the target's armor by 20% for 3 turns, right? The problem is you need lindworm poison for that, lindworm blood, and normally I just sell the lindworm blood. Like, this is something you only get it from a very hard fight, from a very risky fight, and yeah, at that point, if you can do these risky fights, you probably have strong weapons that can ignore armor or do reasonable armor damage. So I rarely craft this, I rarely use it. It's kind of a thing I don't do as much. Okay, let's maybe go to the next thing with the throwing weapons. This one is the blessed water. I use it if I find it for free. And there are basically the event with the temple that gives you free holy water, and also the monk can give you through an event holy water. So this is an event item, you will get it for free. And it does 20 HP damage to undeads, right? Direct hit point damage, so it really kills skeletons and guards, how they're called. Skeleton guards kills them really fast. And has a 33% to spill over to bystanders. So this one is kind of nice for Black Monolith, right? And it's free, right? So free stuff, always good stuff. Okay, let's keep going with the throwing spear. All right, the throwing spear, right? The biggest problem that I have with the throwing spear is it's the highest damage throwing weapon. The problem that I have with the throwing spear, if it hits a shield, it will destroy the shield, but it will do 0 damage to the opponent. So against a guy or somebody who has like a shield, it will crack the shield, but not damage the guy. And the biggest, it is single use. So really high damage, but alright, hits for 26 damage. So if somebody has like a good shield, like a Sipar, that will not destroy the shield. Or if somebody has shield mastery, that might even not destroy the weaker shield. So I use these things basically never, except if I find them for free from like a brigand camp or something. Then I might use them on a thrower, but most of the time if I find them, I just sell them. But you know, if you find them for free, why not use them? Okay, let's go with the next one, the firebomb. The firebomb is one of these things that I generally don't craft. I only use it if I find it for free. And it's basically, it hits 7 fields. All of these 3 will hit 7 fields, and it basically burns them down. As you can read, the burning area will catch fire, take damage, friend and foe alike. And that's the problem. It will also burn your own people. So that's why I don't like it. I don't use it as much, and I don't craft this, but it has some use case in some parts, and when you play with some backgrounds and you find it for free, it might be useful in certain fights, but generally if you have a normal company and you are free, you can do whatever you want, you know. Generally I don't use that. Maybe if I find it from an assassin, from a camp, right? Maybe then I would use it, but generally I wouldn't use it. I would put the Daze Bomb, the Flashpot, does the day status effect for 2 turns on 7 tiles, right? And yeah, this is one of these things that I don't craft and I don't use. I think you can get them from assassins and from camps, potentially, but very rare, and I generally don't use them. I don't think it is worth using the crafting material and the gold to use them and using a slot on a thrower to use this. So I really rarely use it. Although days is a nice status effect on opponents, you know, just it is a very expensive item that has a very limited use effect, in my opinion. Unlike the flash pot, the smoke pot, which is the thing I want to use, because the smoke pot also covers 7 tiles, and it basically removes zone of control for anybody who is in these 7 tiles. That means you can just walk away from enemies. And this is useful to have on like a thrower or maybe a bannerman. So you just, if one of your bros is in trouble, you just throw a smoke pot on top of him, and then he can walk away from an enemy without being attacked by them, right? Because it ignores zone of control. This is really, really nice to save your bros. Something you want to use and you kind of want to have, at least in hard fights, in somebody's backpack, just in case stuff goes wrong, right? Really good item, like it a lot. I buy them, I build them if I can, like them a lot. Okay. The net. Yeah, the net is kind of one of these things that I use early and mid game if I struggle. Really strong early game allows you to farm dangerous content early and mid game. Also allows you to do arena fights. Is really strong in arena. So if you do a lot of arena fights, you want to use throwing nets. And right, it roots a target and reduces their defense and initiative significantly. So it can really make a very dangerous opponent less dangerous to your team, right? Because it reduces defense and initiative, so your guys go first and it's easier for you to hit them. The Katal gets a bonus attack from the death blow, so all of these things really nice early and mid game. Late game, if you have like strong bros with big two-handed weapons, you don't care too much about it, but hey, nice early. The reinforced one is one of these things where it's like it has a higher melee skill requirable to remove it. The biggest problem is things you want to root down most of the time have really high attack. So like they're dangerous opponents. So I don't know if that's worth it. You need the spider things to upgrade it. Like it costs a lot of money. It's one of these things that I would say I don't craft it because I don't think it's worth, but you know, some people have probably a different opinion on that and craft it a lot. Really depends on their playstyle. I don't use it personally a lot, but you know, it's just a normal net a little bit better. Like most of the time, the normal net is more than enough, and they are cheaper. You can just buy them. Okay, next one, the sling, and that's the staff sling. I must say I don't use both of the slings at all most of the time. They're just like their damage is okay, like especially if they cost only 4 action points to use, so you can attack twice per turn, which is always good. The damage is the same as throwing weapons, even a little bit better than throwing weapons, but it has longer range, which is quite good. You have 6 tiles of range instead of 4 tiles of the throwing weapons. So damage is high. Problem is it has really low hit chance, and you get these weapons early. So where is it? Slings down, -5 chance to hit for each tile of distance. So this one, yeah, it's like I rarely use it. It has a really low chance to hit. Does days on headshot, so it's quite nice. Has fairly high armor penetration. I personally never use it because I think just using a throwing weapon that has plus 20% chance to hit on like short range with higher armor penetration is most of the time just better. But hey, if you find them early and you have nothing better, sometimes it's nice to have some ranged weapons in order to just shoot at things, right? And make opponents come to you. But personally, I don't like them, I don't use them. That goes also for the bowlers and the... Where are they? The bowlers and the barbarian, no, the bundle of crude javelins. So these are like fairly low damage javelins and bowlers. That means like these ones and these ones are just straight up better. And goblins have those, orcs have those, and I think barbarians have those too, like the thralls have them. But honestly, like at the same time, roughly the same time, you find also the bundle of javelins and the bundle of throwing axes. So I never use these, right? Because I always, if I want to use throwing weapons, have axes or javelins instead, which are just straight up better. So if you have nothing else and you want to use throwing weapons, you can use them, but the other throwing weapons are just better. And let's go to the other throwing weapons. I use them early and mid game. These ones, the normal javelins and normal axes. The good thing they have going for them is they have really high damage, especially with throwing mastery. Throwing mastery just increases the damage significantly, and they have fairly high chance to hit. And you can hit twice per turn. You can throw twice per turn. That makes them really high DPS really early on. And if you get to duelist, they're gonna shred things. So they are really high DPS with really low requirements in terms of range skill. That's why I like them for early and mid-game builds. Throwers do a shit ton of damage early and mid-game. And I will use them early and mid-game, and I will only replace them by the bundle of heavy javelins and the throwing axes, the heavy throwing axes, if I find them. And these ones are the things I want to use, even late game, because they just do more damage, right? They have more damage, more base damage. I think they have more armor effectiveness, more armor penetration. Actually, same armor penetration. Biggest problem, they have -5 chance to hit. So you need a bro that is a little bit better to throw them. But these ones in combination with duelist, just 2 and 3 shots things, most things in the game, a lot of things. So really, really nice. I want to use them if I can. The problem is these ones get carried by barbarian reavers. So barbarian reavers are tough enemies. Fighting them early can be a problem, but the loot is definitely worth it. So they're like very specific opponents have them, and you have to fight them in order to get them. And those opponents are no joke. So acquiring them is a little bit harder, but definitely worth it, and they make nice late game weapons. All right, I think the next thing is we are going to crossbows, right? That's pretty simple. The standard crossbow is something I only use if I get it for free, basically. And that is because it's the lowest damage version. Lower brigand marksmen have them. So you get them really early in the game. And let's go over the crossbow in general. The crossbow, the beautiful thing about crossbows is they have additional hit chance. And only -3% per tile of distance. So with 6 tiles range, it's a pretty good range and very high hit chance overall. So even like a low range skill brother can use a crossbow very efficiently. Problem is you can only shoot once per turn because of the action points. You have to shoot and then you have to reload for 4 action points, which is 7 action points. So without berserk, you can only shoot once per turn. Another good thing about the crossbow is you have 50% armor pen. With crossbow mastery, you have 70% armor pen. So those things will, on first hit, injure a lot of things, and even through heavy armor. So crossbows in general, really good against armor, really good to injure opponents early on, and also really good on like low range skill brothers early on. That's why I like them. Fairly effective early game ranged weapons. And I would say the first one, the tier 1 one, the light crossbow, I only use if they are good. If I find them for free, right? From normal marksman, because I really want to use this for early and mid game, which is the second tier. The normal crossbow is just better, you know, more armor penetration, No, more armor effectiveness, more armor damage, more armor, more damage in general. Like, it's just better, right? It's more damage. And then those things are the things I want to use for late game, for my crossbowmen, right? These are the heavy crossbows that do, and the spiked impaler, which do a shit ton of damage. Those ones are the nasty ones. You get them from Noble House Marksman, and the spiked impaler you get from the Goblin Overseer. This one has the additional benefit that it knockbacks a target if you hit it. This is really good against dangerous opponents, because especially dangerous opponents that have big two-handed weapons, knocking an opponent back is basically like a disarm on a lot of opponents, because they have to move an additional tile in order to get to you, and that means from an action point economy-wise, a lot of the times they are not able to attack you because you push them back. And in combination with like really high armor penetration and the injury, like they are really good against something like Chosen. They're good against Orc Berserkers, shooting them back. And they have, like against Goblins, really high chance to one-shot Goblins. Only problem with the Shoot Heavy Bolt, it has a little bit lower hit chance, so you need a little bit of a better brother for that. And they are not that easy to acquire. But once you get them, the damage is respectable if you want to have a crossbowman, right? Okay. Next one, the Handgonne. These ones, I would say, and that's a personal taste, I personally don't use them, right? You can buy them from the Southerners Army's weapon shop, or the Alchemist, the Alchemist. You can buy them from the Alchemist, or Southern Armies, the conscripts. They have them. So if you fight the conscripts, you can loot these guns. And that's the problem. They are, unless you fight Southern Armies, which you generally don't want to do, they are impossible to loot. You have to buy them. They're really expensive weapons. And the biggest problem that I have personally is they have low damage with low armor, ignore, and low effectiveness for this armor. And they have an AoE, like you shoot at an AoE. So they are, a lot of the times, almost every time when I want to use them, like one of my brothers is in the way, so I have to shoot my own brother, or the shot is not really good. Like, they are really clunky to use, and that is something I don't like in generally. But if you have a crossbowman, crossbow mastery also is good for the firearms. You can use the cannon with your crossbow guy if you want to. So if you find these things for free, if you fight Southern Armies, you can use them. There's a gunner build with like a double gun and fearsome and overwhelm and stuff like that. I tried it. I generally don't like it. It's just not my playstyle. So for some people like me, I don't use it. For some people, like, you would use it if you find it for free. And for some people, it's like the things that they really want to do, right? I will put it in the tier, like, I find it for free. I might use it with my crossbowman if I have a crossbowman. But in general, like, it depends on the playstyle, right? For everybody, the same. I don't like it. It's like low range, hard to use. So that's why I don't like it. Okay, let's go to the bows. The bows. So the bow has the fast shot, which costs 4 action points, but so you can shoot twice, which has a high penalty to your shot and -1 range. The normal range of the bow is 7, and with mastery you have 8 range on your bow, 8 tiles range. So the bow has the longest range of all shooting weapons, and that's kind of like, for me, the bowman is a specialist, and you kind of want to hunt with your bowman other marksmen, like brigand marksmen or noble house marksmen. You also want to hunt necromancers and hexen, something like that. So having like a good sniper on your team with a good bow, like, is nice. The thing is, you need somebody who has like really high range skill in order to use a bow efficiently. That's the point. The aim shot costs 7 action points, but has plus 10% chance to hit. So it is more likely also has plus 10% damage. So it is more likely that you hit with your bow your target. So in the beginning, if your marksman doesn't have high hit chance, like low range skill, I would use this one more. Or if you shoot deliberately at targets that are behind cover, I would use this one. If you just do it for damage against like Orc Youngs or something like that are charging you, or Berserkers, you can just use the quick shot and try to do a lot of damage. Alright, here are the bows, and let's start with the 4 starting bows. These are the weaker version of the bows, right? And the wonky bow has, I think, a negative hit chance, and the 2 goblin bows also low damage, and the short bow low damage. So in general, I wouldn't use the 4 starting bows at all. So I will put them all in the tier. I wouldn't use them, basically. Goblin bows also have shorter range, at least the boondock bow, the smaller goblin bow. Yeah, those ones are just generally not worth using because of the drawbacks, right? They have low damage, negative hit chance, less range in some cases. Generally, the first 4 are just bad. All right, coming to the next one, the composite bow. The composite bow is the bow from the southern guys, from the nomads. And they have 1 less range, but more armor efficiency and a little bit lower damage than the hunting bow. So these ones I would use for free if I don't have hunting bows and I want to do a little bit more damage against armor. So if I find them for free, I would use them. And the hunting bow, which does a little bit more damage and has therefore a little bit less more armor efficiency, but 1 tile range more, I would use this one for the early and mid game. Most of the time you want to recruit hunters for your marksmen, and they will come with that bow. So this is generally the bow you will have for your dedicated marksman. Higher brigand marksmen, drop them as well, so they aren't that difficult to loot. I would use these ones. And the things I want to use, obviously, are the other 2 bows. And that is the warbow, which is higher in damage, higher in armor, and higher in armor penetration, right? They only drop from master archers, which are very rare enemies. I think mercenaries have them too sometimes, so they are hard to loot and expensive. So you kind of have to buy them if you want them, or you have to fight specific enemies. But this is, of course, the best bow for your archer, if you can get it. And this is the thing I would use for my archers, if I could. And the next one is the masterwork bow, which is basically the warbow with 5 more damage and 5 more armor efficiency. You can only get that from an event that you have, or that you can get if you have a bowyer that is a specific level and you have a pile of wood in your inventory. Then the bowyer can try to make a bow for you, and you either get a masterwork bow or you can get a wonky bow. So having a bowyer early and trying to make him as fast as possible to like level 6 or 7, I don't remember exactly, in order to get the event where he crafts you a masterwork bow, is something you can do in order to have a super strong marksman really early with that weapon. Alright, this is it. These are the ranged weapons. I like to have a dedicated marksman in my backpack against necromancers, against Saxon, and against brigand marksmen and noble house marksmen. They can be really efficient at just picking targets that can do high damage to your guys, especially noble house marksmen with the big crossbows. These ones, like they do a shit ton of damage, and killing them fast with bows with your marksmen, because they're always behind the enemy lines, is a very fast and efficient way of getting rid of them. Yeah, alright, this is kind of my tier list. This is how I use my ranged weapon in generally. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And I I would like to hear your opinions on the weapons in the comments down below. And yeah, guys, have a nice day. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.